The separation of good education and bad education to kids of various abilities and ability to pay, ability to read, ability to understand, all these sort of things. We have to close that gap, and that's who I am.
Hi, I'm Anirudh, speaking from the beautiful gardens of C.V. Raman's house. I'm here with Joe, the founder of Meghshala. Could you please introduce yourself?
I'm Joe. I am. I would like to be known as the. I think the thought partner with a lot of different people of an educational initiative that is able to touch the lives of the poorest children in our neighborhood. It's called Meghshala Trust. It's a non-profit, and we hope that we are going to stop the separation of good education and bad education to kids of various abilities and ability to pay, ability to read, ability to understand, all these sort of things. We have to close that gap, and that's who I am.
So, you're so passionate about education. Can you tell us a bit about your background and how your schooling was like?
My schooling, my goodness, was a typical South Indian. I grew up in a typical South Indian house. My grandmother looked after me. This was also quite typical in those days. Um, I was, there were many ways in which I was told that if I didn't do well in school, it would not meet the standards of the family. Fortunately for me, studying came easily. I was in a house full of boys. I was the one girl in the house full of boys. So it wasn't unusual that I wanted to do physics as a major, because I spent my youth, when other people were playing with dolls, I spent my youth inside the hood of a car or underneath a car trying to fix it. So even now, my good friend and um, dependable driver Johnson, he is often having to put up with my saying, "No, no, Johnson, that's not what is wrong with this car. This is what is wrong with this car." And it stayed with me a long time. So I learned to be very technical, and that was my funny. That was my. That was the way I grew up.
And it's a great way to fuel learning and just curiosity.
Yes.
And like hands-on.
Yes.
So I think that's what Meghshala does as well, like by giving
Yes.
visuals.
Yes. Thank you for bringing me back to the story. Meghshala does. We try and write lessons so that those lessons start the curiosity fire in all the kids that listen to these lessons. And we've seen that happen quite often in classrooms. You know, kids who ask questions who never asked questions before. Yeah.
Did you always know you wanted to teach?
You know, it's odd that you should ask that question, because I always knew I did not want to teach. I was never the one who would tell people what to do. I always did things myself. I suspect I wanted to be someone who went up in a rocket, I think. But my father said no. He said it was too far away from. Too far from home, yes. But what eventually happened is that I married this glorious man, Thiago, and one day over breakfast, Thiago and I were talking, and he said, "Where shall we go?" And I said, "What about Africa?" He said, "Everybody else goes to America." I said, "Precisely." So we went to Africa, and there were no nuclear. By that time, I was trained to be a nuclear physicist. I could build, um, not I could build, but I knew exactly how the nuclear um, generator in Kalpakkam was built. Um, but I had no idea how a classroom worked. This was really odd. Um, and I walked in. There were no nuclear generators in Zambia. Therefore, I walked into a classroom, and I was sold. I was sold. It was so funny. I was supposed to teach them English. And I don't know why English. I think it's because I spoke it uh, without tripping over my words. So I became this English teacher that knew a lot of physics. And it wasn't long before they realized that I had a master's in nuclear physics. And so then I started to teach physics. And that was it. That I was sold.
So your first teaching experience was not in India, it was in...
No, it wasn't in India. It was in Zambia, and it was in the Zambia Institute of Technology, which was a Canadian institute and was a very high quality basic education college degree that they had put together. That's where I first started to teach.
I mean, I'm sure with all these years of being in the industry, there must have been a few students who stood out and made you realize the value, like the actual true value of a good teacher.
Mm.
And I'm sure that's what drives everything you believe in. So, can you tell us something about that?
I can indeed. But I'm going to use a student that you wouldn't believe that I'm going to use. It was a little boy that would run along my car selling roses to women going home so that those women could make their houses look good. And funnily enough, this one day, I pulled over. I was a flat of hand driver in Zambia. So I pulled over and stopped, and I said, "Have you eaten?" He said, "No." I said, "When was your last meal?" He said, "Maybe last night." And it was 3 p.m. So I said, "Wait here." I got out of the car. I got into the petrol station, the office of the petrol station, where they had a small bakery which made the best bread in the world. I swear, best bread in the world. So I went and bought this loaf of bread, and I gave it to him, and I gave him a can of milk, and I said, "Eat that first, and we'll talk while you're eating." So I sat next to him pretty much like this. So he sat there and I sat here. And I got the feeling that somewhere in that conversation, he told me, "I want to learn, I want to study, I want to go to school." A kid who says, "I want to go to school," and has no way of getting to school. And we live right next to that kid. What is the fairness of this? And here we are, we grab our kids and we drag them into school, and here's this kid that has this desire to learn, and we tell him, "Too bad," you know and as it happened, He also showed me something he had done. It was a little car about yay big, and from far away, I could recognize that it was her Volkswagen. It was the old-fashioned Volkswagen,
Yeah.
and I thought, this is a Volkswagen. I told him, is this a Volkswagen? And he said, yes, it's a Volkswagen. How do you know? I said, my question is, how do you know? And he said, I see them on the road. And I've got even the springs is correct for the Volkswagen, you see. And he tapped the Volkswagen on top, and the Volkswagen went down and it rose up again. So it was beautifully, it must have been beautifully smooth to ride if it was a full-sized car. And I said, who taught you to do this? And he said, me. He said, I teach all the boys here. There was intelligence,
Yeah.
And man, that's tough to come by. I'm a school teacher now, and I know that it's difficult to just access intelligence like this. And he had it. Yeah. So then I would stop there every day, and we would do math. Sometimes we'd do history. Sometimes we'd do English. We'd do all that.
So, was there any incident like this that sparked the idea of Meghshala?
No. Meghshala, I think, came to me in the middle of sleep. It was the last day of my teaching. I was going to retire. And I was looking forward to having a coffee in the middle of the day at a nearby coffee shop. And I sat up in bed and I said, Thyagu, wake up. Wake up. I've just wasted my life. And Thyagu woke up and said, shh, shh, it's all right.
Yeah.
Go back to sleep. It'll go away in the morning. It was a bad dream. It'll go away in the morning. And I said, no, I don't think this is going to go away. And in the morning, he said, what happened last night? You woke up really in a tizzy. And I said, I just feel I had wasted my life, but I've sorted it out. I'm going to start an NGO and we're going to do this. And he said, I'm with you the whole way. You decide what you want to do. I will be with you. So I said, okay. So we put this NGO together and we started to work at it. And the NGO was constructed. He said what we can do, what we can't do, and all the rules and laws of NGOs. He was an NGO man. He was a really good NGO man. So, so this is my husband, by the way.
Yeah.
I do wake up next to my husband all the time. I did wake up with right next to my husband all the time. And we had this this conversation about how to actually do this. I had the techniques all done. I said, if we get good lesson after good lesson after good lesson after good lesson, and we put it on a platform that would carry it everywhere we wanted to go, and the cell phone was just hitting the ground, no problem.
Which year was this?
2013.
Oh.
It was before app had a name.
Wow.
So we used to call it small program. The word application hadn't even come into common parlance. So we put it together and we ran with it. The app was built by somebody else. The lessons were built by a set of teachers over which I had overseen. And we we sort of married the two, um, and it worked. I mean, the teachers couldn't believe that we had made this lesson and we were in Sikkim or we were in Kashmir.
Yeah.
I even sent some to Kenya, and the Kenyan teachers thought it was fantastic. You know, this is a solution. This is a just-in-time solution that I think will work. That I thought will work then, and I still think it will work. And now I can see, you know, in front of my eyes, I can see that it works. Yeah.
Okay, so how did you come about putting the team together initially?
So I didn't put the team together. The team put itself together. And every time I talked, I could talk about nothing else. Because here was a problem. It was a thorny problem. It was a knotty problem. Nobody had solved it. Everybody said, "Are you crazy?" was the one phrase I heard most often.
Yeah.
Am I crazy? I mean, my mother didn't bring me up to be crazy, so I couldn't have been crazy. But anyway, everybody thought I was crazy. But I had a solution. So when I started to talk about it, people would sort of slowly stop talking and they would start listening. And at one point, in this well of silence, with about 20 really crazy friends of mine, if I could get them to be silent and listen to me, I thought, perhaps I have the solution.
Yeah.
And that was it. We grabbed as many people as wanted to work with this. We put ourselves together. Everybody was exactly at the same level when we started to work this out, which meant I wasn't the boss lady. You know, I was one other runner standing next to another one runner and standing next to another one runner. So we just all began to run in the same direction, and the solution built itself. I think the time was right. You know, it was. This is how real solutions work.
Yeah.
The solution works itself out.
I mean, now you know the time was right. You never knew that time if it's
No.
actually going to work.
No.
You could have
But-
chosen to.
But deep inside,
Yeah.
in that silence,
Yeah.
I knew.
How confident were you, like, about the receptiveness of government or like government schools to technology, or just implementing technology, because they were not doing it?
It wasn't in classrooms,
Okay.
but it was in kids' hands.
Yeah.
You can see it. Anytime I was with a student, he would pick up something and he would fiddle with it.
Yeah.
You know, he would look at boxes, he would look at tabs, he would look at books. It just they were coded to take that next step into technology. We had to make the technology relevant. That was a tough one, because most of the teachers that taught were my age, and they were not technology relevant. Those kids were technology relevant. You know, it was easy to pick it up and run with it. I have to say, I haven't looked at schools as anything but places
Right.
where we trap kids and we keep them there for the length of the day. But I have seen kids' eyes light up. You know, I have seen individual kids say, "This shit works." I'm sorry about my language, but this is what kids say.
Yeah.
You know, kids say, "This works." You know, if it works, then What right do we have to hold it back? Let it go. And that's what I've done. To the length and breadth of India, which is huge, to the length and breadth of the number of people in this country, I've said, here this works. Take it and go. You know, we're going to we're going to do other interesting things. We're going to put technology out there and hope that it's going to be interesting enough for kids to pick up. And I'll know I've won when an adult picks up the technology and turns it around and says, hey, you know what I can do with this? Is I can measure how much water there is in the well with this. And then I'll know I've really won all over. Without giving, I have to do one thing properly, without giving up the age-old wisdom that we have grown up with. We had a system of measuring how much water there is in a well. We had a system of how do we bring up bulls and cows. Why do we pick that bull to be with that group of cows? And how do we pick the water buffalo? How do we drive that water buffalo to the water? These are all old age systems of learning, and we mustn't kill it. We must work with it. And I think we have a way to do that. Yeah.
I'm sure it's not as easy as you're saying right now. You just found a solution, you put it out. I'm sure there were a lot of challenges you faced.
No, I'm. You are right.
Yeah.
I have to always watch out that I don't take the tech and run helter skelter over good, solid, old-fashioned learning.
Yeah.
We have to know that works always. This works some of the time. This works cleverly some of the time. This works cleverly all the time. And I think that's an important learning to learn. And you are very wise to have picked that up.
Yeah, and I think Meghshala does that perfectly. Like, it's what is to be taught according to the syllabuses.
Yeah.
And you just make lesson plans. You're not only focusing on the students, like you're focusing on making sure the teachers know what they're doing. Because in these schools, like the last school I went to, there was one teacher for like 3 grades teaching every subject.
Yeah.
So,
and she knew what to do in each grade, right?
Yeah.
Now, I could say I can't work in the school because they are teaching 3 grades at the same time. This is not going to work, and walk out.
Yeah.
Say, it's worked. For generations, it's worked.
Yeah.
And she's able to do it. What can I do? I can help her do this till there are enough teachers in every classroom.
Yeah.
Will I make myself popular with the forces that be by saying you don't even know how to run a school, you have 1 teacher for 3 classrooms? I can. Would that help? No.
Give a solution.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like giving up while building Meghshala?
Not once, How funny is that? Now that you ask that question, not once. Not once. Yeah, is it the shine in the kids' eyes? Is it the shine in the adults' eyes as she works with the kids? I think it's the shine in the adult's eye as she works with kids, because my solution is nested there.
Yeah.
It's nested in the face and the hopes of the adults who spend their lives trying to change the lives of the kids.
Yeah.
So for me, when the kids grow up and go away, and they are thankful to that adult, not to me, but to that adult, I think my job is well done.
I'm sure it's very gratifying when
It's,
kids after years come back to you.
no, they don't come back to me. They come back
No,
to
but
their
I'm sure
teachers,
you've
and
had plenty who have come back to you
that's
as well.
the
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you were stressing on the fact that you'd still like to preserve old-fashioned ways.
Yes.
But is there anything you've noticed about the Indian education system, or just the education system in general, when you got into this, like Meghshala and NGOs?
Yeah. They I've looked into the eyes of heroes,
Okay.
and well, I have to say they're mostly heroines. um, and the eyes of heroines are different from eyes of normal people,
Yeah.
because he- heroines have sort of shiny eyes, and everything um, is focused
Hmm.
on getting a job done,
Yeah.
and they've done it. I'm glad. I'm glad there are people like you, because I look at people like you and I think I I like where the young people of today are going. This is not something I would have done at your age. What you're doing today is not something that I would have done,
Yeah.
to my weakness.
But it's also an opportunity that's presented to, I think, my generation more, or I mean, at least me.
Yeah, this is true also. So I shouldn't knock myself too much. I'm always very aware that the adventure was there to be had, and I didn't actually step in and do what you are doing.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that something I've done somewhere further on in the line makes you do what you're doing, and I'm happy to hand the baton to you. Just run with it,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Are there any long-term goals you have for Meghshala?
Oh yeah, one day I want to sit by the seaside and read a book.
Yeah.
I don't, not a seaside. I'm not a seaside person. But one day I hope I will sit by a wildlife park and listen to the tigers rolling roar somewhere,
Yeah.
and have a book and say, I think this guy is out there. Yeah, that will be wonderful for me to do. Um, Meanwhile, all of you will have the shiny eyes, and if you have two shiny eyes that shows everything like I did,
Yeah.
if with so many shiny eyes, I think it will. I think it will light the background.
Yes, that's all I have for you. So thank you so much for this.
Oh,
This is
I was delighted to talk to you. I had forgotten how much fun it is to actually talk about my dreams, because most often I'm sort of living my dreams. I'm sort of trucking from point to point,
great. Yeah.
doing these things.
Yeah. I love
That's interesting too. That's very interesting. Um, but dreams are a different place. It's a sort of, it grows in the pit of your stomach, and it sort of makes you breathe lightly, and it makes your head light, and it makes light come out of your eyes, and all these sort of interesting things. So yeah.
Yeah, I love talking to you. Everyone in the office, when I joined, they spoke very highly of you and said I should be having a conversation with you. And the one day we had lunch together and we happened to have a conversation for the first time, I realized what everyone's talking about. It was wonderful talking to you and
Thank
sharing
you.
about your life.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.